Okay, I think I'm going to keep it like this. Hello, beautiful souls. So this is a live stream, but I am going to keep this live stream up and save it as a post because I want to keep the message that I'm sharing right now. For anyone who may be highly sensitive or intuitive, empathic, these terms that I feel like are becoming more and more mainstream, I want to bring some clarity to what this really means. Because as you can see on my profile, I identify as an empath, but I want to shed some light on what I feel like is the truth about the lived experience of empathic abilities. So the truth about being an empath is that you're really not an empath. You are spirit. You are consciousness experiencing human form. And in this human form, you have energetic abilities to feel more than what is seen, what is physical. And this is a heart-centered ability. So what it really is called clairsentience, which is clear feeling. And when you have this ability, what I see a lot of people struggling with, as well as myself, I have had these challenges, is struggling with boundaries, energetic boundaries. So when you experience this ability, you may identify this as your identity. So when you say I'm an empath, you're identifying your identity with an ability. So the truth is, you are not this ability, but it is an ability that you experience as consciousness in physical form, in human form. So when I say boundaries, energetic boundaries, I'm talking about not just what you feel, but even your thoughts. So people with clairsentience and empathic abilities are not just experiencing their own emotions or their own thoughts. Your field is open, so the flow of energy around you is flowing through your being. And what we tend to do is misidentify those energies with who we are and what our truth is. So let me give you an example, because I find this to be a very common thing that I notice people talking about, and I'm not sure if they understand what's really going on energetically with their experience. So, there's people who may have empathic abilities, which really are psychic abilities. All of the clairs are psychic abilities. It just depends on which sense is heightened. So before I get to the example, I want to touch on this because I feel like it may help people understand what the clairs even are. So in our physical realm, as humans, we have 5 main senses: sight, touch, hear, taste, and smell. So these are the fundamentals of experiencing the world in human form. Because if you realize that your true identity is spirit, is consciousness, then you get a deeper understanding of what it really means to be human. Because technically you're not really human, but the way that spirit works is it becomes the thing. So like, let's say I want to be happy. I want to feel happiness. I literally become the energy of happiness in order to experience that. So the human form, we get to experience the world through these five senses, but we also have metaphysical senses that we can tap into, or that we just experience, so contractually we agree to experience these things during our incarnation. So, like for me, for example, I was born with intuitive empathic abilities. So obviously it must have been a part of my soul contract, but there's some people who these metaphysical senses get activated at some point in their lifetime. There's even people who may have a walk-in where a part of their soul is pretty much like just walks into their experience. Like, let's say they had 20% of their soul like located within their body. We'll say located for the sake of this conversation, even though it's more so like a channel. But yeah, so let's say they start with 20% and then they have a near-death experience, and all of a sudden now they're at 60% of their soul being localized in their body. So they may experience clairsentience, clairaudience, and clairvoyance very rapidly. So let me go back to giving an example now that I've kind of given you a little bit more of a foundational understanding of what these metaphysical abilities are and how they're related to our human experience, because it's like an expanded version of the human, not just having the five basic senses, but having expanded senses like clairvoyance, clairsentience, clairaudience. So an example that I find to be very prevalent for people who have the clairsentient ability and they may misidentify themselves as an empath is that they struggle with anxiety. And so what I want to touch on here is that since the human form is the way that spirit consciousness chooses to experience itself, one second. What is the best way to describe what I'm wanting to deliver? Okay, I actually just this is actually so perfect. So how should I bridge this? Because what I feel like just came through is to bridge the, okay, there it is. I feel like I just got a reminder to like slow down and breathe, and that's also something that I want to highlight as well for people who are empaths or who identify as empaths, who really have clairsentient abilities and may not understand it and may identify with the experience of anxiety, is that breathing and slowing down is a way to cultivate mastery. Because when you have this ability, it's really important to hone your discernment, to slow down and breathe so that you can discern what is your energy and what is someone else's energy. So the thing that I really wanted to highlight before like spirit was telling me to slow down is that we have senses and then we have our perception. So this is the heart and the mind. And so our heart is, when our heart is open, energy is just constantly flowing. I mean, energy is flowing regardless. But when our heart is open, we can feel that constant flow. And when we tend to essentially jump to conclusions is kind of like a misinterpretation. So let's say I walk into a room and there's someone who, I'm unaware of this, but let's say there's someone who has just experienced a death in the family and they're struggling with coping. And they may have a lot of thoughts running in their mind. They may have a lot of feelings. And so, as the clairsentient person, or as the person who has the clairsentient abilities, I may walk into that room and feel all of that energy, as well as all the energy of the other people in that room. And I might interpret that energy as I'm having anxiety or I'm having a panic attack. So I'm giving this example to bring up the point of we are so open, but we don't have to be speedy in interpreting what we're feeling. And this is a daily practice of discerning the energies that you're feeling when you have this clairsentient ability and maybe identifying with being an empath. So it's a matter of really breathing and allowing the energy to flow. And sure, there is a, I want to say a need, but excuse me, but not necessarily a need, but I can understand why somebody might interpret it as a need to label things. But honestly, for the sake of this video, I'll just say let go of the need to label what you're feeling right away. You can still get clear on what it is that you're feeling. Clarity, labeling, the clarity that comes from labeling can help, but if you're really struggling with experiences like anxiety, that you're calling anxiety, I would say first focus on breathing, slow and deep, and then if you want to start thinking about, okay, you can ask yourself, is this mine? Is this my energy? What is this energy? And why is this energy coming to me? Or what does this energy want to show me or tell me? Because sometimes it may not even be for you. It may be simply that you're in tune with somebody around you who is suppressing some emotion or thought. But since you're open, you are in tune with it and you're not avoiding it. So sometimes with clients, like let's say you're an entrepreneur like me, you might have a client who, once you're interacting with them, you feel whatever they're suppressing. So in that scenario, it may be your responsibility to bring to their attention, like, I'm feeling this, and then you can ask them questions about, have they been feeling this? Is there anything going on in their life that may influence feeling this way? And are they asking if they're allowing themselves to feel? And if not, why? And just, just probe and dig deeper. So there's people in my background. I don't know if y'all can hear that. But yeah, I feel like that's the completion of that thought. I'll share something personal actually, because since I was born with these abilities, I have had a lot of like training, if you want to put it that way, of discerning what my feelings are, what other people's feelings are, and also like working on boundaries and communication. So I'm probably going to do a separate live for boundaries and communication, because there's whew, that is a topic that can get really deep. But for this, I'm just going to leave it at like defining what it is to have this clairsentient ability and possibly be identifying yourself as an empath. So, oh man, what was the example I was going to give? A personal. Well, I'll see if the thought comes back, but even with that, like, you see how. Oh, I know exactly what. I know exactly what I was going to say now. Thank you, Spirit. So, I was going to give a personal example about how I get really excited and how breathing helps me to ground my energy back down. And I can also feel other people's excitement. So if I'm excited and you're excited, then I can easily just not be in my body fully. But as I was like trying to reel that thought back in, because it was like, whew, I realized like, oh, another thing that I could mention is to be patient with yourself. Like, if you do have this clairsentient ability and you're possibly consuming content around being an empath and healing, then I'm sure it may possibly be overwhelming and you may be putting a lot of pressure on yourself to have boundaries, be assertive, heal your trauma, heal ancestry, like do all of these things. Be patient with yourself, because being patient with yourself can really help you on your journey. And not that you want to accelerate anything, but even in the patience, it may actually accelerate things for you. Not that that's the goal, but I'm just saying, like, it actually helps a lot to shorten delays or confusion. Like, you get a lot more clarity when you're patient. And you just saw from a moment ago when, like, I completely lost my thought of what personal example I was going to use. And I was just looking out the window and I was looking at a tree and I was breathing. And it came right back. Versus, times where maybe you put pressure on yourself and you're just like, oh man, like, oh, I forgot. And now you're not really being patient with yourself, and it might cause a longer delay than if you're patient and you breathe. And you realize whatever it is that you need to realize. So yeah, I guess I'll go a little bit more into depth about the example about getting excited, and then I'm gonna get off of here. So in astrology, I'm an Aries moon, and I feel like a lot of passion comes with having like fire placements, and so my passion feels very exciting to me. So like I can get really, really, really excited really fast simply by talking about something. Like, so I have this segment on my main Instagram at Savon.xo. Follow me. And it's called Creators Chat. It's a monthly segment where I bring on a special guest and we talk about our passions, we share stories, and we play games. And so me and my last guest for May were talking, and as we were talking, I was so passionate and interested in what we were talking about, and my body got so hot and I started sweating. And like, as a girl who like to be cute, I really don't like to be sweating, especially not on camera. So it's like getting excited and the physical sensations that occur when I feel that excitement, and also my guests' excitement and passion, it can be really overwhelming. So like overheating is like a symptom of that fire that I feel like it's like just a part of the it's a part of the process of being a really open-hearted, heart-centered person. Like when I get excited, it's like a must to breathe because I can just either ramble on really fast, I'll get really hot and sweaty, or my hands will start shaking. So breath work and mindfulness has been such an amazing transformative tool for me. That's why it's one of my services, mindfulness and breath work, because I just know, like, if you're experiencing something like anxiety or even excitement, like sometimes those things can feel the same in the body, or like nervousness and excitement, like those energies are, I don't even know. They're just so physically activating. That's a great way to describe it. Those energies are so physically activating, so grounding back into calmness or neutrality, or just even a manageable excitement so that you can communicate is, yeah, it's a process, it's a practice. So yeah, I just want to highlight that. And if you identify as a highly sensitive person, intuitive, empath, or you know that you are clairsentient, comment below, what is your experience like what kind of things do you struggle with? What kind of things do you feel like you've mastered or in progress of mastery? I would love to hear, because I feel like my experience has, now that I'm like aware that I have these psychic abilities, because I'm also clairvoyant. Now that I'm aware, it brings so much clarity to my life experience, and I'm so grateful to realize that not only do I have these gifts, but I can help other people, because I've been experiencing this my whole life. So people who may just now starting to open their heart and they don't know like how to navigate all of this stuff that they're feeling, like I will feel so glad to support you in, or even just hear your stories about what it's like to be you with clairsentient abilities, because these are not normal human abilities. These are metaphysical divine gifts, and we get to experience an expanded version of being a human. So if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to leave a comment or share a story in the comments. And if you have a question that you want to ask me, you don't want it to be public, you can DM me and I'll respond as soon as I can. So have a beautiful rest of your day. Peace.